The tattoo on his wrist was still bleeding when their eyes met across the gallery, and in that single moment, Juliet Carter knew her carefully constructed world was about to shatter into 1,000 irretrievable pieces. She'd walked into the Gangnam exhibition space 20 minutes earlier, her bronze shoulders bare in an emerald silk dress that clung to curves she usually hid beneath oversized sweaters. Her goddess locks, freshly retwisted and adorned with gold cuffs, swayed with each hesitant step. The walls displayed her charcoal portraits and mixed media pieces, raw, vulnerable windows into a soul that had spent 27 years learning to be invisible. Tonight was supposed to be about validation, about proving to herself that her art, that she, mattered to someone beyond the four walls of her cramped Hongdae studio. Then she saw him, and every coherent thought evaporated. Kang Daehan stood in the shadows near the back, a crystal tumbler of something dark cradled in his left hand, while his right pressed a black silk handkerchief against his inner wrist. Even from across the room, she could see the fresh ink beneath the fabric, could see the way his jaw tensed with what might have been pain or might have been something far more dangerous. He was devastating in a way that made her throat close. Charcoal three-piece suit tailored so precisely it seemed painted onto his powerful frame. Platinum hair swept back from a face that belonged on ancient warrior sculptures, all sharp angles and aristocratic brutality. But it was the ink that captured her, tendrils of elaborate artwork crawling from beneath his collar, disappearing under his sleeves, making promises about what lay hidden beneath. When his obsidian eyes locked onto hers, the world tilted violently. Most people would have looked away from that predatory stare. Every survival instinct screamed at her to run. Instead, Juliet found herself frozen, captured by the dark hunger in his gaze that somehow felt like recognition, like he'd been searching for her specifically. He moved then, cutting through the crowd with the fluid grace of something apex and untamed. The handkerchief had vanished. Up close, she could see the fresh tattoo clearly now. An intricate Korean dragon, breathing flames up his inner forearm, the edges still raw and glistening. Juliet Carter. Her name in his mouth sounded like a verdict, his voice a low rumble with that intoxicating soul accent that turned every syllable into seduction. "I've been waiting for you." Her mouth opened, but nothing emerged except a shaky breath. "Your work," he continued, moving closer until she could smell him, sandalwood and something darker, dangerous. "It screams loneliness. Beautiful, exquisite loneliness. You paint isolation like someone who's drowning in it." His bleeding wrist lifted, the dragon seeming to writhe in the gallery light. "I understand that particular drowning. I wanted you to see this the moment I saw your first painting online. Fresh. Still hurting. Still real." I don't understand," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. His lips curved into something too sharp to be called a smile. "You're more devastating than your photographs suggested. Smaller, more fragile, infinitely more dangerous than I prepared myself for." He extended his uninjured hand. "I'm Kang Daehan, and I'm going to ruin you for every other person who ever tries to know you." The honesty of it, the dark promise, should have terrified her. Instead, something deep in her core awakened. Something hungry and reckless she'd spent years suffocating. "That's an unusual introduction," she breathed. "I don't believe in pretense. I want to commission you, but not for art." His thumb brushed across her knuckles, electricity racing up her arm. "I want you to teach me how to feel again, and in exchange, I'm going to show you what it means to be truly consumed by another person. Every boundary you have, every wall you've built, I'm going to dismantle them piece by piece until there's nothing left but raw, honest desire." Her pulse hammered so violently she was certain he could see it in her throat. "You don't know anything about me. I know you've spent your whole life being overlooked. I know you crave recognition so desperately you agreed to this exhibition, even though crowds make you want to disappear. I know that beneath that careful composure, you're starving for someone to see you. Really see you. He leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. I see you, Juliet. Every hidden piece, and I want to devour all of it. She should have walked away. Should have laughed off this dangerous stranger with his bleeding tattoos and devastating promises. But when she looked into those midnight eyes, she saw her own loneliness reflected back, magnified, weaponized. I have a car waiting, Dehan said softly, releasing her hand only to trace a single finger down her bare arm, leaving fire in its wake. Come with me tonight. Let me show you the beginning of everything. I don't even know you, she protested weakly. You know the only thing that matters, that we're the same. Isolated, starving, desperate for something real in a world of beautiful lies. His hand settled on her lower back, possessive and certain. Say yes, Juliet. Stop being invisible. Stop being safe. Say yes, and let me show you what it feels like to be worshipped. The word escaped before her rational mind could stop it. Yes. His smile was pure triumph, dark and absolutely male. Perfect. My driver is already pulling around. We have so much to explore together. As he guided her through the gallery, his hand never leaving her body, Juliet felt something fundamental shift inside her. She was walking toward the edge of a cliff, and instead of fear, all she felt was exhilaration. The last thing she saw before stepping into the night was her own reflection in the gallery window, and for the first time in her life, she looked alive. The sleek black Genesis GV80 cut through Seoul's neon-drenched streets like a predator through darkness. Juliet sat in the back seat beside Dehan, hyper-aware of every inch of space between their bodies, of how his presence seemed to consume all available oxygen. Where are we going? She asked, trying to steady her voice. Somewhere we can talk without pretense. Somewhere I can look at you properly. His hand rested on the seat between them, close enough that she could see the dragon tattoo in detail now, scales rendered in such intricate detail they seemed three-dimensional. It's still bleeding, she observed, unable to stop herself from reaching out. He caught her wrist before she could touch, his grip firm but careful. Pain is clarifying. It keeps you present, reminds you what's real. His thumb stroked the delicate skin of her inner wrist, feeling her pulse race. Your heart is beating so fast, fear or anticipation? Both, she admitted, because something about him made lying impossible. Good. Fear without anticipation is cowardice. Anticipation without fear is stupidity. But both together. His eyes gleamed in the passing streetlights. That's how you know you're alive. The car pulled up to a towering glass building in Cheongdam, all sharp edges and expensive darkness. Dehan led her through a private entrance, past security that nodded deferentially, into an elevator with only 2 buttons. He pressed the top one. You live at the penthouse, she said, not really a question. I own the building. The penthouse is where I actually live. Everything below is just business. The elevator doors opened directly into his space, and Juliet's breath caught. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around the entire apartment, Seoul sprawling below like a circuit board of light and possibility. But it was the interior that stunned her. Every surface was deliberate, expensive, austere. Charcoal and black dominated, punctuated by single pieces of art that were clearly chosen with obsessive care. She recognized a small yayoi kusama in one corner, what looked like an original Basquiat sketch on another wall. You collect, she breathed. I collect things that make me feel. It's rarer than you'd think. He shrugged off his jacket, revealing a black dress shirt that did nothing to hide the artwork covering his arms. Most art is decoration, but occasionally you find pieces that reach inside and twist something vital. Your work does that. How did you even find my work? I'm nobody. You were featured in a small online gallery 3 months ago. I was looking for something specific, Though I didn't know what until I saw your piece, Invisible in Crowds. That painting of the woman surrounded by people, all of them looking through her like she's glass. He moved to the bar, pouring 2 glasses of something amber. I felt that. Every single day of my life, I feel exactly that. He handed her a glass, their fingers brushing. I had my people research you, not to invade your privacy, but to understand if what I felt was real or projection. Juliet Carter, 25 years old, born in Atlanta, moved to Seoul 4 years ago on an art scholarship to Hongik University. Graduated top of your class but turned down every gallery offer to work independently. You live alone, keep to yourself, create obsessively. No close friends, no romantic relationships, just you and your art. That sounds like stalking, she said, but without heat. It's due diligence. I don't invest in things casually. And make no mistake, I'm planning to invest heavily in you. He sipped his drink, watching her over the rim. Now tell me something I couldn't learn from research. Tell me why you're really here instead of running from the obvious danger I represent. Juliet took a fortifying sip of the whiskey, felt it burn down her throat. Because I'm tired of being careful. I'm exhausted from being invisible. And because when you looked at me, you didn't see what everyone else sees. What does everyone else see? Someone forgettable. Someone taking up space she doesn't deserve. Someone who should be grateful for scraps of attention. The words tumbled out, bitter truths she'd never voiced. But you looked at me like I was necessary, like you'd been searching and finally found something crucial. Because I was. Because you are. He set down his glass and moved closer, invading her space deliberately. Do you know what I do, Juliet? Something that makes you very wealthy. His laugh was dark velvet. I run an empire built on things people pretend don't exist. Import, export, entertainment, protection. I operate in spaces between legal and illegal, in grey areas where power matters more than laws. I'm what people call when they need problems to disappear. I'm what your government warns you about when they tell you to be careful in foreign countries. He was confessing to being exactly what she'd suspected, what the tattoos and guards and dangerous grace had already told her. A gangster. A criminal. Someone mothers warned their daughters about. Why are you telling me this? Because I don't want you to have illusions. I'm not a good man, Juliet. I've done things that would horrify you. I will continue to do them because it's who I am, what I'm built for. But with you, I want to be honest. Completely, ruthlessly honest. His hand cupped her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. I want you. Not just physically, though I'm going to have you that way too. I want to possess every piece of you. Your art, your thoughts, your fears, your desires. I want to become necessary to you the way oxygen is necessary. That's insane, she whispered, but she didn't pull away. Yes, but you're still here. You're still leaning into my touch instead of running, because you want it too. You want someone to choose you with absolute certainty. You want to matter to someone so completely that your absence would break them. His forehead rested against hers. I'm offering you that. Total devotion, complete possession, a love so consuming it borders on destruction. People don't talk like this, she protested weakly. People lie. People pretend. People play games because they're afraid of being vulnerable. I stopped being afraid of vulnerability the day I realized loneliness was worse than any pain another person could inflict. His lips brushed her temple feather light. Stay tonight. Not for sex, though I'd be lying if I said I didn't want that eventually. Stay so we can talk. Stay so I can show you what it feels like to be the absolute center of someone's focus. Every rational thought screamed warnings, but rationality had only ever kept her safe and miserable and alone. Just talking, she asked, her voice barely audible. Just talking. You have my word. He pulled back enough to meet her eyes. Though I should warn you, talking with me is its own form of intimacy. I'm going to ask you things nobody's ever asked. I'm going to make you feel exposed in ways that have nothing to do with clothing. By the time sunrise comes, you'll know whether you can handle what I'm offering. And if I can't, Then I'll have my driver take you home, and I'll have my people remove every trace of my research on you. You'll never hear from me again, and I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what could have been." His thumb brushed her lower lip. "But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think you're going to stay. I think you're going to let me in. And I think by morning you're going to realize you've been as starved for this as I have." Juliet's heart hammered against her ribs. She thought about her empty studio, her careful life, all those nights spent painting loneliness because she couldn't escape it. Then she looked at this beautiful, dangerous man who saw her, really saw her, and offered her everything she'd been too afraid to want. "Okay," she breathed, "I'll stay." His smile was devastating triumph and tenderness and dark promise all mixed together. "Then let me properly show you my world, Juliet Carter, starting with the truth about who I really am." He led her to the massive windows overlooking Seoul, and as the city glittered below them, Kang Daehan began to tell her stories that would change everything. Stories about power and pain, about building an empire from nothing, about the crushing isolation of being feared instead of known. And Juliet, standing beside this dangerous stranger in his glass tower above the city, felt something she'd never experienced before. The terrifying, exhilarating sensation of being absolutely, completely seen. Hours dissolved like sugar in rain. They talked, sprawled on the charcoal sectional facing those impossible windows, Seoul's lights creating a constellation backdrop to confessions neither had ever shared with another soul. "I was 12 when I realized I was different," Dehan said, his voice softer than she'd heard it, almost vulnerable. He'd rolled up his sleeves completely now, revealing the full scope of his artwork. Dragons and phoenixes and Korean characters forming intricate sleeves up to his shoulders. Not different like special, different like dangerous. "I got in a fight at school, some older kids harassing a friend. When I hit the first one, something switched off inside me. Or maybe switched on. I didn't stop until they were all unconscious. The scary part wasn't the violence. It was how natural it felt." Juliet listened, her body angled toward him, drawn in despite the darkness of his words. "My father saw it immediately. He was already connected, already building what would become my inheritance. He started training me that year. Not just fighting, but strategy, psychology, how to read people's weaknesses in seconds. By 16, I was handling collections. By 20, I was running entire operations." He stared at his tattooed hands as if seeing blood that had long since washed away. "I'm 31 now. I've spent half my life being exactly what people fear in the dark." "Do you regret it?" she asked quietly. "No. Regret is useless nostalgia for different choices. I am what I am. But I'm lonely in ways that most people can't fathom." He turned to her, and the rawness in his expression made her chest ache. "When you have power like mine, every interaction is transactional. People want something, fear something, need something. Nobody just wants you. Nobody sees past the reputation to whatever might exist underneath." "Until tonight," Juliet said. "Until tonight," he agreed. "Now tell me your truth. Not the surface story, the real one. Why Seoul? Why isolation? What are you running from?" She hesitated, then decided if he could be vulnerable, so could she. "My mother died when I was 8. Cancer, fast and brutal. My father remarried within a year to a woman who had 2 daughters of her own. I went from being everything to being invisible overnight. They never said I wasn't wanted, but I felt it in every interaction. I was the reminder of his dead wife, the complication in their new family." Her voice wavered, but she pushed through. "I learned to be quiet, unobtrusive. I disappeared into art because at least there I could create worlds where I mattered. By the time I graduated high school, I was so good at being invisible that people literally forgot I was in rooms with them. Teachers would mark me absent when I was sitting right there. It was like I'd become a ghost." "That's why you left America," Dehan said, understanding dawning. "You thought distance would make you real again." I thought starting over in a place where I was already foreign, already other, might somehow give me permission to exist loudly. Stupid, right? She laughed bitterly. I just brought my invisibility with me. Different country, same ghost. Not stupid. Heartbreaking. He reached out, fingers tangling with hers. And not true anymore. I see you, Juliet. So clearly it's painful. You're not invisible, you're incandescent. You've just been surrounded by people too blind to notice. Tears burned behind her eyes. You don't know me well enough to say that. I know that your art is extraordinary because it comes from a place of genuine emotion, not manufactured sentiment. I know that you walked into this apartment with a stranger who admitted to being a criminal and stayed anyway because you're brave in ways you don't recognize. I know that you're starving for connection but terrified of being hurt, so you've convinced yourself that isolation is choice instead of consequence. His grip on her hand tightened. And I know that looking at you makes me feel things I thought I'd burned out of myself years ago. What things? She whispered. Hope. Possibility. The terrifying idea that maybe I'm not just the monster I've become. He pulled her closer, slow enough that she could resist if she wanted. She didn't want to. You make me want to be known, Juliet. Really known. Every ugly piece, every beautiful moment, everything I am without the reputation and the fear and the power. Just me. Just Dehan. Her free hand lifted to his face, tracing the sharp line of his jaw. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to let someone in. Neither do I, so we'll figure it out together. Slowly, carefully, honestly. His thumb stroked her cheek. But I need you to understand something. If we do this, if we really do this, I won't be able to do it halfway. I don't know how to care about things casually. When I commit absolutely. That sounds intense, she breathed. It is. It will be. I'll want to know everything about you. I'll want your time, your attention, your truth. I'll be possessive and demanding and probably infuriating. His forehead pressed against hers. But I'll also worship you, protect you, make you the absolute center of my world in ways that might feel overwhelming. So before we go any further, you need to decide if that's something you can handle. Juliet's heart raced wildly. Every self-preservation instinct screamed at her to run, to choose safety over this dangerous intensity. But safety had only ever meant loneliness. I want to try, she said, the words feeling like stepping off a cliff. I want to see what this could be. His smile was pure relief and triumph combined. Then we start now. Real, honest, whatever this becomes. He stood, pulling her up with him. It's almost dawn. Come watch the sunrise with me. I want to see you in the first light. He led her to the rooftop terrace, and as the sky began to pale from black to navy to rose gold, they stood together at the edge of his glass kingdom. Seoul awakened below them, and Juliet felt something inside her awakening too. When Dehan wrapped his arms around her from behind, his chin resting on her head, she leaned into him and felt, for the first time in her entire life, like she belonged somewhere, like she was real. This is just the beginning, he murmured against her hair. Everything changes from here. And as the sun crested the horizon, bathing them both in golden light, Juliet believed him. The next 2 weeks unfolded like a fever dream. Dehan pursued her with focused intensity that would have terrified her if it didn't make her feel so impossibly alive. Private dinners in restaurants that emptied for them. Late-night drives through Seoul where they talked until sunrise. Museum visits where he studied her studying art, learning what moved her. He was learning her, cataloguing every preference and fear and hidden desire. But he never pushed physically. Touches remained careful, deliberate. Kisses landed on her forehead, her hands, her shoulders, never her mouth. The restraint was maddening and intoxicating in equal measure. Why? She finally asked one night in his apartment, 3 weeks after they'd met. She'd been coming here almost every evening, and something about the familiar space made her brave. "Why haven't you kissed me? Really kissed me?" Dehan looked up from the book he'd been reading, stretched out on the couch like a dangerous cat. "Because once I start, I won't want to stop, and I need you to be absolutely certain before we cross that line." "I'm certain," she said, moving closer. "Are you? Or are you caught up in the intensity of being pursued? There's a difference, Juliet. I need you to want this, want me, independent of the attention and the newness." He set the book aside, giving her his full focus. "I need you to understand what you're agreeing to. Then tell me. Stop being cryptic and tell me exactly what you want." His eyes went molten. "Everything. I want everything. Your body, yes, but that's just the beginning. I want your thoughts at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep. I want to know what makes you laugh, what makes you cry, what terrifies you in the dark. I want to be the person you call when something good happens, when something bad happens, when nothing happens at all. I want to memorize every inch of your body, every sound you make, every expression that crosses your face." He stood, stalking toward her with predatory grace. "I want to know you so completely that I can anticipate your needs before you voice them. I want to possess you so thoroughly that the thought of anyone else touching you makes you physically ill. And I want you to do the same to me. I want to be yours so completely that I forget what it felt like to be alone." Juliet's breath came in shallow gasps. "That's not normal. That's not how people love each other. I'm not normal people. And what I feel for you isn't normal love. It's obsessive and consuming and probably unhealthy by conventional standards." He stopped inches from her, close enough that she could feel his heat. "But it's real. It's honest. And it's yours if you want it. So I'll ask you one more time. Are you certain?" She looked up at this beautiful, dangerous man who saw her so completely it was almost frightening. Thought about her empty life before him, all those years of careful invisibility. Thought about what he was offering, intensity, passion, complete devotion, the terrifying gift of being absolutely necessary to another person. "Yes," she breathed, "I'm certain. I want this. I want you. All of it." Something shifted in his expression, going from controlled to barely leashed. "Say it again." "I want you, Dehan. Stop holding back and show me everything." He moved then, fast and fluid, one hand tangling in her locks while the other pulled her flush against him. When his mouth finally crashed into hers, it was everything she'd imagined and nothing she could have prepared for. The kiss was claiming, consuming, absolutely possessive. His tongue swept into her mouth like he was memorizing her taste, like he was starving, and she was the first meal in years. She gasped against him, her hands clutching at his shoulders, trying to ground herself against the onslaught of sensation. He kissed like he did everything else, with total commitment, absolute focus, devastating skill. His teeth caught her lower lip, tongue soothing the sting, drawing a sound from her throat she'd never made before. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard, both trembling. "Bedroom," he said, voice rough. "Now, because I'm about to make good on every promise I've made, and I need you somewhere I can take my time." She nodded, unable to form words, and let him lead her through the apartment to a room she'd never entered. His bedroom was all dark wood and expensive linens, massive windows overlooking the city. But she barely registered the details before he was kissing her again, walking her backward until her legs hit the bed. "Last chance to change your mind," he murmured against her mouth, even as his hands found the zipper of her dress. "After this, you're mine. Completely, utterly mine." "Promise?" she gasped, and his answering smile was devastating. "Promise. Now let me show you exactly what being mine means." What followed was a revelation. Dehan undressed her with reverent slowness, pressing kisses to every inch of revealed skin, murmuring words in Korean she didn't understand but felt in her bones. When she was finally bare before him, vulnerable and trembling, he stepped back to look at her with such intensity she felt it like a physical touch. "Perfect," he breathed. "You're absolutely perfect. And you're mine now. Say it." "I'm yours," she whispered, and watched something primal flash across his features. He undressed himself with far less ceremony, revealing a body that was artwork made flesh. Lean muscle and elaborate tattoos, scars that told stories of violence survived, power that was both frightening and magnetic. When he finally joined her on the bed, every touch was deliberate, purposeful, designed to overwhelm. He mapped her body with hands and mouth, finding every sensitive spot, every place that made her gasp and arch. And when she was trembling and desperate beneath him, he finally gave her what she was begging for, joining their bodies with a precision that made her cry out. The rhythm they found together was instinctive, perfect, like they'd been created specifically for this. He was demanding but attentive, possessive but generous, taking her apart piece by piece and rebuilding her into something new. Every time she thought she couldn't possibly feel more, he found a new way to devastate her, a new angle, a new touch, a new whispered promise in Korean that sounded like prayers. When she finally shattered, it was with his name on her lips and his eyes locked on hers, watching every flicker of pleasure cross her face. And when he followed her over the edge moments later, the sound he made was raw and vulnerable and absolutely hers. Afterward, tangled together in expensive sheets, both breathing hard, he pressed kisses to her temple, her cheek, her shoulder. "Mine," he murmured. "Finally completely mine." "Yours," she agreed, because it was true in ways that transcended the physical. She'd given him something she'd never given anyone else, complete access to her authentic self. And in return, he'd given her the same, showing her the man beneath the monster, the loneliness beneath the power, the desperate need for connection that matched her own. As she drifted to sleep in his arms, Seoul glittering through the windows, Juliet felt like she'd finally stepped into colour after a lifetime of grey. Whatever came next, whatever challenges they'd face, she knew with absolute certainty that she'd never be invisible again. Because Kang Daehan saw her, completely, devastatingly, permanently. And she saw him too, all his darkness, all his light, everything in between. And that, she thought as sleep finally claimed her, was worth any risk. If you're breathless from Juliet and Dehan's intense connection, hit that subscribe button now because you won't want to miss what happens when their passionate world collides with the dangerous realities of his empire. Smash that like button if you felt every moment of their chemistry and drop a comment telling me, would you risk everything for a love this consuming? Part 2 drops soon, where secrets, rivals, and impossible choices test whether their obsession can survive in the real world. Don't miss it.